in this video, we're going to do a couple more examples using phase shifts. Okay, so transformations, but in particular ones that have this phase shift going on. So let's look at the first one here. Okay, so we want 2 cycles of this graph here. So y equals 3 sine of 2x minus pi minus 3. Okay, so we want to label a bunch of points. Okay, so first we want to rewrite this. So the b value, I'm going to highlight here, is 2. Okay, so I'm going to pull out that 2. So not out of the sign, but just inside the sign. So this is 3 sine of 2 times x, and now this is going to be pi over 2 minus 3. Okay, so that means that the amplitude is 3. The b value, okay, that's also my a value. It happens to be positive. The b value is 2, which means that my period is 2 pi divided by 2, so just pi. Okay, so that means that the length of our, let's just go up here, so the length of the 4 sub-intervals, okay, so the length of each, I should say, is going to be pi, the period, split into 4 parts, so pi by 4. So we're going to want each little block here to count for pi by 4. Our phase shift, that's our c over b. So that is pi by 2. And it's positive because of the minus here. So it's going to the right. Okay, and the vertical shift, okay, that's our d value, is minus 3. So we're going down 3 units. Okay, so I'm going to do that first. So we go down 3. Okay, that's our new middle. Okay, now each unit is going to be pi by 4 because that's the length of our subinterval. So I'm just going to write these in. Uh, 7 pi by 4. This is going to be 2 pi, etc. So we're going pi by 2 to the right. Okay, so that means I moved over pi by 2. So this is where the start is of our graph. Okay, and then the period is pi. So that's going to be 4 units from here. Okay, so this is going to be 1 cycle. Okay, so that's length pi. So every 4 units, oops, I don't know how that happened. Every 4 units, so here's going to be another cycle. Okay, and I could also go this way, although I don't have 4, I only have 3. Okay, now the sine graph starts in the middle. Okay, so that's going to be at the baseline here. Okay, so maybe I should have written here. So this is where the middle is, or the baseline. Okay, and then it goes up first, so it's positive, so there's been no reflection. So it's going to go up 3 from the middle, so the amplitude. Okay, so that's going to put us at 0 here. And then it goes back down to the middle, and then it goes down 3. Okay, and it'll be down here, and then back to the middle. Okay, so this is going to be 1 cycle of this sine graph. It's going to look like that, so we should label these. So it wants us to label 5 points, so here's our 5 points. So this is pi by 2 and negative 3, 3 pi by 4 and 0, pi and negative 3. This is 5 pi by 4 and negative 6, and then 3 pi by 2 and negative 3. Okay, so that's our 1 cycle, and then you just continue on. So at pi by 4, we're going to be down here, and then back up at the middle, and then up here, okay, if we go that way. So that would be continuing in this direction. Okay, and if we continue in this direction, we're going to be up here, down here, and then down here, and then back up in the middle. Okay, that's our second cycle. And then I guess this one's not really here, but it would be up here by that point, and continue on like that. Okay, so that would be the graph. So this is y equals 3 sine of 2 x minus pi by 2 minus 3. Yeah, that's what it was. Okay, so that would be our graph there. Okay, so let's try another one. So here I don't have a vertical shift, okay, but I do have a reflection. So the a value is negative. So we could just start by writing these values. Okay, so a is negative 2. The b value is 4, and the c value is 3 pi, actually negative 3 pi, because it's minus minus. Okay, but if you want to rewrite it, this would be negative 2 cos of 4 times, so I pull out that 4, so that's my b value. I pull that out, and then it's x, and I'm going to write it as minus minus 3 pi over 4. Okay, so here my amplitude is the absolute value of a, so that's the absolute value of minus 2, so 2. Okay, the period is 2 pi over 4 over my b, so that's pi by 2 if I simplify. Okay, the phase shift is c over b, so that's negative 3 pi over 4. Okay, and because it's negative, that means we're going to the left. Okay, now the length of each subinterval is the period over 4. So the period here is pi by 2. So divide that by 4, that's going to be pi by 8. Okay, so I'm going to want each of these intervals, to each of these this grid to be pi by 8. So this is pi by 8, this is 2 pi by 8, so that's pi by 4. Okay, 3 pi by 8. This is negative pi by 8. Negative 2 pi by 8 is negative 4. Negative 3 pi by 8. Negative 4 pi by 8 is actually negative pi by 2. Okay, negative 5 pi by 8. And negative 6 pi by 8 is negative 3 pi by 4. Okay, and then the next one here would be negative pi. Okay, so our phase shift is negative 3 pi by 4. Okay, so that means that this is where we're going to start. Okay, so we're going that amount to the left. Our baseline, or the middle, okay, is still the middle because there was no, I should write here, d equals 0. Okay, so no vertical shift. Okay, but there was a reflection. Okay, so maybe I should write, there was a reflection over the x-axis. So that means when cosine cos of x should be up, we go down instead. Okay, so you want to go do the opposite. So let's get to the green here. So at the beginning, cosine is normally at 1. Okay, so this is 1 and 2, negative 1, negative 2. So at the beginning, cosine is normally the positive 1. But here, it's because of the reflection, it's going to be the negative version. So we're going to go down 2 units. So this is, the amplitude is 2. So we're going to be down here at the start. Okay, and then cosine goes up to the middle. Okay, and then it's going to go up to the top, and the top here is 2 from the middle, because that's the amplitude. And then back down to the middle, and then down to the bottom. Okay, now this is going to be 1 period, is the 4 units. Okay, so this is 1 cycle. So to get from 3 pi by 4 to negative 3 pi by 4 to negative pi by 4, that length is pi by 2. So I'd have to add pi by 2 to get from one to the other. So that was what our period was here. So the graph is going to look like this. Okay, so it looks like the cosine graph, but it's been flipped upside down, and that's because of the reflection. Okay, that's because the A value is negative. Okay, and then we can just continue to do, because it wants 2 cycles, so we'd go up to the middle, up to the top, down to the middle, down to the bottom. So here would be a 2nd cycle. Okay, so that would be from here to here is cycle 2. Okay, and then you could keep going further. So then it's going back up to the middle here. And it would go like that. And same up here, it would come back up to the middle and then keep going. So this is the graph of negative 2 cos of 4x plus 3 pi. Okay, so that's what that graph would look like. So I hope that makes sense. So all the phase shift does is basically move where, so what it's adding is you need to be in this proper form. Okay, so you want to factor out the B value first before you start looking at the phase shift. Or you can take the B and the C and divide them, because a phase shift is C over B. So you can also do it that way too, depending on what you want. But what it does is it just shifts where your start is. So instead of thinking of the start at always x equals 0, it just moves that. So in this case, it moved it 3 pi over 4 to the left. Okay, so that's where my new start was. So then I want to think, okay, cosine's normally at 1 there. Because of the reflection, it should be at negative 1. Because the amplitude's 2, it's actually at negative 2. Okay, so we could plot some points if you want. So this is negative 3 pi over 4 and negative 2. Here is negative pi by 2 and positive 2. Okay, here is going to be negative 5 pi by 8 and 0. This is negative 3 pi by 8 and 0. Here is negative pi by 4 and negative 2, etc. So we've labeled now 5 special points. So that's how you can do these without doing each step individually. So it's nice when you think about these sub-intervals. So you just break it down into 4 bits, because the cosine and the sine graph always move in those 4 bits. And then if you just label your axes accordingly, so where each step is the length of your sub-interval, then they're not too challenging to graph. Although I will say this is a very difficult and does take some practice.